So what we'll do now, we'll walk through what are these different election-related organizations. And Meg, if you could talk about the Political Action Committee, a PAC, what it is and how it functions.
Sure. So a PAC, or a Political Action Committee, are committees that are established and administered by corporations, labor unions, membership organizations, or trade associations. As such, they spend money on elections and can donate money to parties or candidates, but are not party affiliated or an authorized committee of a candidate. PACs that are established, administered, or financially supported by a private sector company or labor organization are called separate segregated funds, or SSF. They are funded by the organization with which they are associated and can only receive contributions from individuals connected to these groups, such as those who work for or own shares in the corporation. Open Secrets, which is a great resource, keeps track of the top corporate PAC contributors. PACs without such a corporate or labor sponsor are called non-connected PACs. They are financially independent and are allowed to solicit funds from the public.
So, anyone can really start a PAC, right? A group of people who have a belief in one issue can start a PAC. What's your experience with PACs?
Sure. So that was my first job, was raising money from political action committees for candidates. So I worked for a campaign would hire us to be a consultant to raise money from political action committees. So, and now I run a PAC right now. I run the Rock Holdings Inc. PAC. It's a PAC that's affiliated with Quicken Loans and the Rocket family of companies. So I have a lot of experience doing it. I raised PAC money when I was at the NRCC. And what I would say is that, almost every corporation has a PAC. And again, it's not corporate money being put into a fund to be given to a campaign. It's employees of a company put their money subject to contribution limits. The maximum an individual can contribute to a PAC is $5,000 per calendar year. So, and it's also regulated who exactly can give to a PAC. Not every employee can give to a company's PAC. It's restricted. It has to be a part of the company's restricted class, and that's the Federal Election Commission sets those standards. So, an employee in the restricted class can contribute up to $5,000 to the PAC, and then that money is pooled and then given out, also subject to contribution limits, to candidates and campaigns. So a corporate or a union PAC can give up to $10,000 per $5,000 per election cycle to a candidate. So candidates have a primary and a general. So that's $10,000 over the course of a 2-year congressional race or a 6-year Senate race. And then they can also give $5,000 to other PACs. So for example, Rock Holdings PAC, we give $5,000 to the Mortgage Bankers Association PAC because I work for a company that sells mortgages. So we are allowed to give money from our PAC to the Mortgage Bankers Association PAC. So yes, PACs have been around for a long time. They're highly regulated. Every contribution is disclosed, both as a contribution to the PAC as well as a disbursement out of the PAC. And so it's very transparent. And almost every company has a PAC. Almost every trade association has a PAC, every labor union. It's a really effective way for a business to speak. We talked about free speech, to go ahead and voice support for a candidate. We are providing this support to a candidate because we believe this candidate is good for our business. So it's a really important tool for companies who have government affairs operations to advocate on their behalf.
And it's also, I think, like for individuals, I have a friend who started like a Korean PAC.
Right. Yep.
Anyone who has a real a group of people with affinity or a real issue that they believe in is also invited to form a PAC or contribute to a PAC. So then you indicate to the candidate that your position is important. So there's a PAC about like moms and safe neighborhoods, for instance, is right. That was formed. So and it's a lot easier to set up than I originally thought it was. So.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Anyone can set up a PAC. You just have to, maybe find an attorney or, make sure that you're legally compliant with all the regulations of the Federal Election Commission.
So the other organization, election-related organization, is an independent expenditure-only committee, and that's a term that's used for super PACs. And super PACs, the difference is super PACs can solicit and spend unlimited sum of money, but they cannot contribute directly to a politician or a political party. And this is why they're also called independent expenditure-only committees. So independent expenditures are made for a communication that advocates for the election or defeat of a clearly identified candidate, but is not coordinated with a candidate's committee, a party committee, or their agents. So the super PACs are not legally considered political action committees and are regulated under different rules. So PACs can contribute directly to candidates and political parties, but super PACs cannot. They can just only run advocacy campaigns for the election of a candidate without any communication to the campaign. And I think the rules are very strict about that, right?
Yes,
So you have
absolutely.
You've worked with super PACs, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes, I have. Yep. I haven't directly, but have certainly worked for organizations that cared about the activity of super PACs. So when I worked for the congressional committee, certainly, we were very aware of the activity that a super PAC supporting Republican House candidates might take, because if they're spending money to advocate on behalf of a candidate, that might affect the outcome of the race. So we certainly paid attention to it. Certainly in my role now, we are solicited to ask for support of super PACs. And certainly it's something that's in the news a lot, that voters want to hear about, that campaigns talk about. So, and I know we'll get to it later in the brief, but it's pretty recent that super PACs have been able to have this activity. It was a Supreme Court decision in 2010 that kind of laid the groundwork for us to find ourselves where we are now.
Oh, with the super PACs and super
Yes.
PAC spending,
Yes.
which is really unlimited on ads campaign for or against a candidate or on an issue.